Hello and welcome to this subject introduction video for OCR's 2016 Level 3 Cambridge Technicals in Health and Social Care. My name is Tricia Banks. I'm a sector specialist at OCR and I've been working on the development of the Health and Social Care suite. I'm delighted to be able to share with you our 2016 Cambridge Technicals Health and Social Care. They are available for teaching from September 2016 and contain 5 different sizes of qualification: certificate, extended certificate, foundation diploma, diploma, and finally extended diploma. All the Cambridge Technicals in Health and Social Care are categorised by the DFE as Applied General and are graded as Pass, Merit, Distinction and Distinction Star. The suite contains 25 units, which we'll go on to later, and are graded as Pass, Merit and Distinction. For certification, all parts of the qualification must be passed. We have designed the qualification to give students flexibility within their study programme. Dependent on the size they choose to study, your students' Cambridge Technical in Health and Social Care may make up the bulk of their 2-year study programme or be taken alongside other vocational or academic qualifications. Whatever route they choose, you can be confident that your students will be able to progress to a university degree programme or into employment or an apprenticeship where they could continue to study. Now, let's look at the structure of the different size qualifications. The certificate is 180 guided learning hours, which is the equivalent size to 1 AS level. Your students will need to complete 3 units to achieve this qualification. All units are mandatory and are 60 guided learning hours each. Unit 1, Building Positive Relationships in Health and Social Care, is internally assessed, so set and marked by you. Unit 2, Equality, Diversity and Rights, and Unit 3, Health and Safety, are both externally assessed. I'll speak more about external assessment later. Our certificate will give your students a broad grounding across the subject. Because the size is 180 guided learning hours, it makes it suitable for your students looking for a qualification that will complement other subjects in their study programme and prepare them for further study. The extended certificate is 360 guided learning hours, which is the equivalent size to 1 A level. Your students will need to complete 6 units. There are now 4 mandatory units, still 1, 2 and 3, but with the addition of Unit 4, Anatomy and Physiology for Health and Social Care, which is externally assessed. Your students will then choose 2 optional units. These are all internally assessed. This size of qualification gives your students the flexibility to be able to take other qualifications, vocational or academic, alongside it. Your students will be able to progress to a university degree programme or employment where they could continue to study. The foundation diploma is 540 guided learning hours, which is the equivalent in size to 3 AS levels or 1.5 A levels. Dependent on what they choose, your students will take 9 or 10 units in total. 7 of these are mandatory. This still includes 1, 2, 3 and 4, plus 1 more externally assessed unit, Unit 7, Safeguarding, and 2 internally assessed units, Unit 5, Infection Control, and Unit 14, Long-Term Physiological Conditions. As well as the mandatory units, your students will select 2 or 3 optional units that are internally assessed, dependent on the size of qualification they choose. This size of qualification gives your students flexibility to take other qualifications, vocational or academic, alongside it, and your students will be able to progress onto university degree programmes or into employment where they could continue their studies. The diploma is 720 guided learning hours, which is the equivalent in size to 2 A levels. Again, dependent on what they choose, they will take 12 or 13 units. As per the foundation diploma, there are 7 mandatory units in the diploma, units 1 to 7. 4 of these are externally assessed and 3 internally assessed. Your students must then choose at least 1 of 2 core units, Unit 12, Promote Positive Behaviour, or Unit 14, Long-Term Physiological Conditions. They can then select 4 or 5 optional units. One of these could be the other core unit. Our diploma will form the bulk of your student study programme, but gives them the flexibility to study other smaller qualifications alongside it. They could then progress onto a university degree programme in a relevant health and social care discipline, or into employment or an apprenticeship where they could continue their studies. The extended certificate is 360 guided learning hours, which is the equivalent size to one A-level. Dependent upon the size of units chosen, your students will need to complete 6 or 7 units. There are now 4 mandatory units, still Unit 1, 2 and 3, but now with the addition of Unit 4, Anatomy and Physiology for Health and Social Care, which is externally assessed. Your students then choose 2 or 3 optional units. These are all internally assessed. This size of qualification gives your students the flexibility to take other qualifications, vocational or academic, alongside it. Your students will be able to progress to a university degree programme or onto employment where they could continue to study. The Foundation Diploma is 540 guided learning hours, which is the equivalent in size to 3 AS levels or 1.5 A levels. Depending on what they choose, your students will take 9 or 10 units in total. 7 of these are mandatory. This still includes Unit 1, 2, 3 and 4, plus 1 more externally assessed unit, Unit 7, Safeguarding, and 2 internally assessed units, Unit 5, Infection Control, and Unit 14, the impact of long-term physiological conditions. As well as the mandatory units, your students also select 2 or 3 optional units that are again internally assessed, dependent upon the size of qualification. The size of qualification gives your students the flexibility to take other qualifications, either vocational or academic, alongside it. Your students will be able to progress onto a university degree programme or into employment where they could continue their studies. The diploma is 720 guided learning hours, which is the equivalent in size to 2 A-levels. Again, dependent on what they choose, your students will take 12 or 13 units. As per the Foundation Diploma, there are 7 mandatory units in the diploma, Unit 1 to 7. 4 of these are externally assessed, 3 of them internally assessed. Your students must then choose at least one of the 2 core units, Unit 12, Promoting Positive Behaviour, or Unit 14, the impact of long-term physiological conditions. They can then select 4 or 5 optional units. One of these could be the other core unit. Our diploma will form the bulk of your student study programme, but give them the flexibility to study other smaller qualifications alongside it. They could then progress onto a university degree programme in a relevant health and social care discipline, or into employment or an apprenticeship where they could continue their studies. The extended diploma is 1,080 guided learning hours, which is the same size as 3 A-levels. Like all the other size of qualifications, the total number of units the student will take depends on their unit GLH. But for the extended diploma, your students will take 17 or 18 units. There are 10 mandatory units, just like the diploma. There's units 1 to 7, but both of the 2 core units, 12 and 14, plus Unit 25, Research Project in Health and Social Care. This unit is externally assessed. Your students will choose 7 or 8 units. There are 15 optional units for them to choose from, all of which are internally assessed. All our qualifications are fully nested. This provides a very useful facility for students to be able to drop down to smaller qualifications, such as the certificate, if they do not stay on for the full term or change their direction, providing recognition for that which they have already achieved. For students who are highly motivated by health and social care subject, topping up to a larger qualification sizes, such as from an extended certificate to the Foundation Diploma or higher, is also available. This is not always possible with similar qualifications offered by other awarding bodies. And for those of you who are not currently delivering the Cambridge Technicals, we believe this offers you and your centre with a special opportunity to think differently, providing you with a real alternative choice. You must consider the relationship between the units when you plan the learning programme. To help you with your delivery, planning all units highlight opportunities for synoptic teaching, learning and assessment. In Units 4, 6, 7 and 25, which are all externally examined, 10% of the mark available will be synoptic assessment, requiring the application of knowledge from Units 1, 2 or 3. For Units 12 and 14, students will apply what they have learnt in other units. providing further application of their knowledge and skills in a synoptic way that enhances the applied nature of the qualification. It's therefore recommended that these units are delivered and assessed towards the end of a student's study programme. It will be possible for students to make connections between other units over and above the units containing the key tasks for a synoptic assessment. Please see section 6 of the Centre Handbook for more detail. These qualifications have been developed with your students in mind, ensuring that on completion they are able to progress directly on to further learning, whether this be at a university or an apprenticeship. Extensive research was done with employers and universities, schools and colleges and students themselves to really pin down the skills and knowledge and understanding that your students need to make and support them on their journey. Feedback from universities and employers was used to inform the unit content, and letters of support from both can be found on our website. We believe the content is exciting, engaging and practical, and not only will prepare students for the next stage of their education, but they all should be able to have some fun along the way. Throughout the development, we've listened to the views of teachers. By doing so, we've designed qualifications that you are able to deliver using any mode of delivery that meets the needs of your students. References to real-life scenarios and case studies using local examples can be used to bring the content to life and help your students to understand the relevance of what they're learning. Of course, whichever mode of delivery you decide to use, your students will need to have access to appropriate resources to ensure they will develop the skills, understanding and knowledge required to complete the assessments. We recommend you reference teaching and development of subject content and associated skills to real-life situations and case studies. There are plenty of opportunities to co-deliver and assess a number of units, and details of which units complement each other can be found in the unit documents and the delivery guides. While work experience is not a requirement of these qualifications, the practical elements within the internally assessed units would provide opportunities for your students to consolidate their learning and develop their skills, knowledge and understanding further, if an appropriate work experience placement is available. Any work they undertake during such work experience could contribute to the assessment of for summative assessment. You must plan this with your student and the employer so the work allows your student to cover the requirements of the unit and you are able to authenticate it, ensuring of course that confidentiality is maintained. All external assessments take the form of written examination. This ensures that the externally assessed units are easy to manage in your centres and require minimal supervision time, unlike some of our competitors. There are 2 exam series each year, January and June, which gives you the flexibility to enter your students for the externally assessed units when they are ready. Exam dates are set by us. Should a student not achieve a pass in any of their externally assessed units, there will be an opportunity for 1 resit per unit at an additional cost, and the best result will be used. In order to plan your teaching, you need to consider when you are going to enter your students for the exams. If you are not familiar with exam registration, you need to take into account the entry dates for each series. You can see from the slide that students need to be registered for an exam about 2 months prior to the exam date. If you miss the entry window, there is a charge for late entry. You will get the results in time to re-register students for the next series if they need to resit. For the externally assessed units where the content contains IE and EG under specific areas of content, the following rules will be adhered to when we set a question in an exam. A direct question may be asked about unit content which follows an IE. Where unit content is shown as an EG, a direct question will not be asked about that example. The following units are externally assessed. Unit 2, Equality, Diversity and Rights in Health and Social Care. A 1.5 hour written examination consisting of multiple choice questions, short answer and extended answer questions. Unit 3, Health, Safety and Security in Health and Social Care. A 1.5 hour written exam consisting of short answer questions and extended answer questions. Unit 4, Anatomy and Physiology for Health and Social Care, a 2-hour exam consisting of short and long answer questions. Unit 6, Personalisation and a Person-Centred Approach to Care, a 1.5-hour written exam consisting of short answer and extended answer questions. Unit 7, Safeguarding, a 1.5-hour written examination consisting of short answer and extended answer questions. And finally, Unit 25, Research Methods in Health and Social Care, a 2-hour written examination based on pre-release stimulus material and research notes that the students can take into the exam with them. We provide sample assessment materials for the externally assessed units. This is because we set the assessments for these units. Sample assessments show you what the assessment will look like, and you can use them as practice materials. Each year we'll make the exam from the previous year available as a practice paper. You can download model assignments, sample assessment materials and eventually past papers from our website at www.ocr.org.uk. To be awarded a full qualification, a student must achieve at least a pass grade for all units required for the qualification. If they don't do so, they won't be awarded the qualification. Students will be awarded a combination of pass, merit, distinction and distinction star qualification grades determined by the aggregation of points gained through the successful achievement of individual units. The number of points available for each unit depends on the unit grade achieved. More information on this can be found in the Qualifications Handbook. For the externally assessed units, we can only advise of national grade boundaries. An awarding process takes place following each exam session, and it's only at this point that the grade boundaries are determined. These grade boundaries can change year on year. You will need to refer to some of the following JCQ documents: instructions for conducting examinations, suspected malpractice in examinations and assessments, access arrangements and reasonable adjustments, a guide to the special consideration process. Find these at www.jcq.org.uk. Dependent on the size of qualification chosen, the majority of units are internally assessed. This means your students will be set assessment assignments by you. You will mark the students' work using assessment criteria and the grading grid. You can even provide them with some feedback. Once ready, you'll make a claim and we'll moderate the work for you. To support your internal assessment, we'll provide a model assignment for every mandatory unit in the specification. You can use these with your students, adapt it to meet local environment, or use it as a basis to create your own assignment. Because of the nature of vocational qualifications, we believe that allowing you to create assignments that meet your students' needs and interests will benefit them more and give them greater success. Your assessment assignments should reflect the practical nature of the units, and so units such as supporting people with learning disabilities, infection control, creativity and activity for children and young people, and supporting people with dementia should be delivered and assessed in a way that mimics practice. But if you're unsure, an assignment check-in service is available and can be accessed through the CPD hub on our website. However, it's not mandatory for assignments to be endorsed by OCR. Students can be assessed at any time within their study programme, and we'll provide you with 2 free moderation visits per academic year. This flexibility, combined with our efficient administration process, enables you to focus on what's important, delivering a study programme that meets the needs of your students, rather than completing the additional paperwork that our competitors require. We'll moderate your claim when you're ready, but we'd suggest you plan when you'd expect your students to be ready for moderation and discuss this with your moderator and get your visits booked in well in advance, particularly in the summer term when this can get very busy. Your students can resubmit an assignment if they've not performed at their best, but you must use your discretion as to whether or not this is in their best interest. We believe this is a real advantage compared to our competitors who require your students to complete a brand new assignment within a very short time frame. Our internal assessment really does put your students at the heart of the process, allowing them to reach their maximum potential. We'd also strongly advise you to leave time in your planning in case unit needs to be resubmitted. And please remember that if your students require UCAS points, you must have all units complete and moderated by the 30th of June. For more information on internal assessment, you could attend one of our live webinar training or watch a support video. If you have any questions and want to talk to us, please feel free to do so. You can call us on 02476 851 509 or send an email at vocational.qualifications@ocr.org.uk. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has given you a flavour of the Cambridge Technicals in Health and Social Care, and we very much look forward to working with you in the future.